All right, the basketball show is live now on a Friday. It has been an out of the normal week with the basketball show, but Little T is almost 100%. She will be in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. She was in work today in studio where I am now. She's at her lovely home, but we wanted to jump on here on a Friday that will lead into a Saturday morning. And then, of course, the big game at 3 o'clock on Saturday just to talk about this game that really, T, we've been talking about since we started doing the basketball show back in December and January. This has been a date we've been pointing toward, not Valentine's Day, the day after Valentine's Day, since we started doing this little basketball thing.
Yeah, it has been talked about since the start of conference play, really since the start of both of these teams having, incredible non-conference runs. And it kind of snuck up on me, to be honest,
Only
because I
because
feel
of the
like,
flu. Only
yeah,
because of the flu. Yes.
yeah, because I
Everything
was on
else.
house arrest for a week.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I feel like every post-game show, that's what was being talked about in the chat. And we were like, okay, guys, we still have 2 weeks. We still have 4 games. We still have
Right.
3 games. We still have 2 games. We still have a full week until this game's something that we're going to be talking about. And now here we are.
Yep. Here we are. So what are we looking
And
at?
I have
Oh,
a nice beverage tonight.
Oh, I
Cheers.
like that. You got a nice little red wine rolling in over there. Is it let me see if I can guess. Are you a cab person, a Cabernet?
Yes,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. I like a cab. I'm a Pinot Noir, a cab. Some of the ones I can't pronounce. I like some of those too. What is it? I don't even know.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes, 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 that's it. No whites for me either, but I've got no cocktail, even though they're all around me up here. But I've got none here with me. Maybe I'll go pull a beer as we do this process
You
here.
should.
Number one Auburn, number two Alabama, 3 o'clock tomorrow. It's the 171st meeting between Alabama and Auburn, but none of them have been like this. 10-1 in the SEC for both of them. Auburn's number one in the AP poll. Alabama's number two in the AP poll. There's only been a handful of regular season 1-2 matchups in the history of college basketball. Different opinions on how many 1-2 matchups in the last one. Boy, I've noticed that all week long. 23 is a number that's out there. 38 is a number that's out there. Last one was Kansas, Oklahoma, or was the last one Gonzaga, UCLA? I mean, I'm not sure history really knows all the 1-2 matchups, what poll, but we know we got one tomorrow, no matter which poll you're looking at, coaches or AP poll. It's 1 versus 2.
Well, I have a stat that I saw right before we started from John Fanta. And he said tomorrow's the Auburn Alabama game is believed to be. This is like it's like a anomaly.
Be-
It's like a
Believed
scientific
to be.
anomaly. Believed to be
Right.
the fifth time in college basketball history that we have the number one in the AP poll versus the number one in the coaches poll. This is he said per Fox Sports Research. So I feel like that's a pretty trusty source.
Yeah.
2019 Duke and Virginia, 2016 Kansas and Oklahoma, 2007 Ohio State over Wisconsin, and the 1960 Final Four, Cal over Cincinnati.
Wow. We'll get to your comments. Can I give you the one negative stat that I stumbled across? I mean,
Sure, if
I
you
don't
if
want
you want to
to
be like that.
I don't want to be negative, but
But let me
uh,
give you this negative stat.
well, I mean, I just haven't heard this one all week. There have been in the last 40 years, there have been 9 teams that have played in a 1 versus 2 matchup that have gone on to make the Final Four. Right? They've had a deep run. Like if you play in a 1-2 matchup, like Alabama and Auburn's going to play, the stat from the Athletic was you usually go on a run in the NCAA tournament, but only 9 teams of that 1-2 matchup have made it to the Final Four. It's not negative yet. 4 teams made it to the national championship game. Here's the negative stat. Nobody who played in a 1-2 matchup during the regular season has ever gone on to win the national championship.
History is or records are made to be broken. This is a
Okay.
negative record.
Yes, that's right. I mean, somebody's got to be the first, right?
Right.
Somebody's got to be the first. But I just, I saw that. I was like, man, nine. Well, at first it said, usually if you play in a 1-2 matchup, both teams go on a run in March. And I was like, all right, here we go. 9 teams in 40 years made it to the Final Four. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a lot. 4 went on to the national championship game. And I was like, and they won it? Nope. Lost them every time. No national champion out of a 1-2 matchup. That's a stat. Stats are for losers. So let's hope both of these teams make it to the Final Four and somebody wins
Yeah,
the
now,
national
yeah. Hey,
championship.
way to kill the excitement around the game, Dunaway. Like,
Well,
come
there's nothing we can do
on.
about it now. It's going to happen. So we just have to change history. So we'll get to
Yeah.
your comments. But before we do that, the show brought to you by mybookie.ag, mybookie.ag, promo code next round, and our friends at Roback. Taylor had her little Auburn Roback shirt on earlier today. I had mine on yesterday when I went to swing a golf club or two. Not yesterday because it was raining. The last time it didn't rain like buckets. I had my Roback on, roback.com, promo code TNR20 to get 20% off of that there. And before I get to the comments, give me one thing, one stat or one nugget you want to throw out to get the conversation going, Taylor Korn.
Do you want to hear my biggest concern for Auburn, or should we save that for later?
You know that I saw you start a TikTok that said, I think you did it today, follow Taylor on TikTok, where my biggest concern for the big matchup, and I turned it off instantly. I was like, oh, no, no. I liked it because I know you're
Thank
there for the
you.
likes. But I liked it, but I shuttled, get it. No, no, I don't want to know it because I'm about to do a show with her. So do it here. Give me your biggest concern about this game. I assume this is from an Auburn perspective. Is this going to make me happy? Is your concern a positive for Jim, or is your concern what's your biggest concern in this situation?
I mean, I don't know if it'll necessarily make you happy. I think it's something that's well known. It's not going to blow anyone's mind. My biggest concern is this Auburn team keeping their composure. They're so
Ooh.
emotional. And this is a conversation that we've had a number of times in the past is their emotion is a strength. Their emotion is a positive a lot of times
Right.
and feeds into their energy. But, they toe a line. And if that line gets crossed and you start playing frantic, you start playing a little bit sloppy, you start making rash, bad decisions out of frustration, that can come back to bite you in the butt. And I think if the game is officiated in a way that the Auburn players, especially the emotional ones, which are Johni, Chad, if the calls are going a way that they don't believe are correct, whether they are or not, if they think they're unfair, I think that's something that you can't stop and complain to the ref excessively. You can't pout about it. You have to continue playing the game. And I think that's sometimes they let those emotions impact the way that they're playing, and it doesn't seem like that kind of stuff rolls off their back easily all the time.
Nate Oates actually addressed that today in his news
Yeah,
conference.
yeah, in a
Yeah.
very interesting way, I thought.
Yeah. He literally said, he was asked about, I didn't really hear the question. We sent it out next round, but I didn't hear the question. But he sort of addressed that, like if I don't know if he had just mentioned Chad Baker Mazara by
Oh,
name, or if the
he
question
did.
was the
He
question, was it included in the question? Was Chad Baker Mazara included in the question? Um, Either way, I know he was talking about, if you respond, if you retaliate, if you chirp back, if you talk back, any of that is losing basketball. That's his philosophy. And I think that is the case, but no matter what sport is, if you've got somebody who is chirping at you or bumping into you or trying to get under your skin, if you start giving it back to them, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. They're really doing that to try to get you off your game because it's part of their game. So if you start retaliating, chirping back or whatever, uh, even a double technical, it's losing basketball for you. And that's what Nate was saying today. It's the same way. for the Auburn players. If for the Auburn players, Chad Baker Mazzara in the Yale game, he retaliated. I mean, the Yale kid did something first, and Chad Baker retaliated, but he's the one that got the bad end of the stick. So either way, it works. Just Nate was talking about it today. So no matter which side you're on, if somebody's saying something or gets a push in or a bump in or walks, across you as you're on the ground, if you do something, chances are you're going to get tagged with a technical, or you're going to be the one ejected, or it's in best case scenario, going to be a double technical. So just let that be water off your back and try to play basketball. It's easy to say that on Friday. It's harder to do that on Saturday when there's 15,000 people and it's your rival and it's 1 versus 2. So I understand what Nate's saying. I
Yeah.
understand your concern too.
Well, yeah, what Nate's saying, the idea, the concept behind that's losing basketball, it is. But the depth that he went into when talking about Chad was unnecessary, I would say.
Well, again, I don't know the question. If I'm asked specifically about Chad Baker Mazzara, who was ejected from an NCAA tournament game last year.
He was, but my thing is, and I don't know what the question was either. I was not there.
Okay.
EG was there, and she's the one that was sending me the video. The question was not included in what she sent, so we can go back and watch it and figure this out. Right now, I'm not sure what the question was. Even if he was asked about Chad specifically, I would have thought if you would have asked me yesterday, Nate Oats gets asked about Chad Baker Mazzara, what does he say? I would say that he says he started off very complimentary. He said he's a very good basketball player. He can make some acrobatic shots, whatever. And then he made the decision to go further. What I would have thought he would have said from there would have been, and he plays with a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion surrounding this game with, the number of eyeballs on it. And everyone, and that hopefully that doesn't play an impact in the game. Him starting off his response saying they can win the boxing match, they can win the wrestling match, we'll win on the scoreboard, and then going into saying, they did get bounced in the first round because he made the decision to go that far. That part of his response, in my opinion, was unnecessary to answer a question. Even if he was asking a question about Chad, no one asked what happened to Auburn in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Yeah, everyone's aware. And I think that he made the decision to say that.
Did he say anything that wasn't true? Because it was losing basketball for Auburn. When he did that, it's losing basketball. And he was using that as a point that if my guys do that tomorrow, it's losing basketball for us. We're gonna try to win it on the scoreboard. We're not gonna try to win the boxing match or the wrestling match. There's nothing he said that isn't true.
No,
Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl would tell you the same thing.
They would, but that was he made the decision to bring it up. I thought that was interesting just because he didn't have to. Bruce Pearl could have brought up a lot of stuff about Aiden Holloway when he was asked about him. Yeah, he did bring up Modi. I'm talking about Chad. I'm talking about Chad in this situation. He brought that up, but I mean, I thought that was a little bit unnecessary. It's going to be ranting about it's going to piss the Alabama fans off in the chat because they like how he answers questions sometimes. But I just think the way he went about it was, I mean, he made the decision to say that he wanted to ruffle feathers by saying that.
His MO is to speak his mind. He's very honest when it comes to his thoughts. He is unguarded when he's talking to the media, and his point is, and I agree with him, if you get caught up in that, it's not a recipe for winning basketball. If you're able to stand there and take it when any opponent does that to you and you don't retaliate, then you're not giving them the mental edge, and you are more focused on trying to win the basketball game. And you can't tell me that Chad Baker Mazzara specifically doesn't do the things he does on the court to try to get under the skin of the opponent. He does it 100%. Johni does it 100%. They do it to get a mental advantage on their opponent. And he's just speaking honestly. If you get into that game with them, that's their game. So don't get into that game. You can be upset
Yeah.
about him saying it, but it's 100% the truth.
Hey,
It's the truth.
I never said he told a lie. I just
That's
said that
right.
I thought it was an interesting way to answer the question.
Yeah. We talked about it. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time with Chad Baker Mazara specifically, that he does
Yes,
it. He
and I
does it
agree.
for a reason, and that's what makes him so good. He is a thorn in the side of opponents, because he is so aggressive, and he gets in their heads. He gets in their
Yeah,
heads, and he
and
may do it again tomorrow, and it may help Auburn win the basketball game. He started
yeah,
off by saying he was a really good basketball player,
he
and he
is.
is, and he is.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with all that.
Yeah.
And yes, Chad, all of that happened. We are all very well aware of it. All I'm saying is I thought it was interesting that he went into the detail that he did. Like, that was, you have to admit that going into that much detail was unnecessary to answer a question. That was no, I don't care what the question was. If the question was what happened to Auburn in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year, then like, okay, but whatever. Like this,
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter that much. But I was just like, okay,
He
that's
wouldn't have answered that question. Yeah, he wouldn't. If you'd asked specifically, what do you think of what happened to Auburn in the NCAA tournament
well,
last year? He wouldn't have answered that. He brought it up as an example of losing basketball. I mean, it cost his team last year. You
yes,
know
and
that. You know
I'm
that.
not
Yeah.
disagreeing.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with any of this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. But staying on the same topic, kind of the fact that Mo D has been a guy that's had, I wouldn't say similar issues, like to the extent of some run-ins that Chad has had, but he was the example that Nate Oates brought up in the same response to the question. And that matchup, I don't know, how much of that will we see? Who knows? But that'll be interesting if they're the two, quote unquote emotional guys that are, on each other for the majority of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I'll use a hockey term. Mo Diabate is Alabama's enforcer. Chad Baker Mazara is Auburn's enforcer. In hockey, there are enforcers, guys who go out there and they play physical, and he's exactly, he's right. Mo Diabate can only last year you could count the minutes, well, actually sometimes seconds, for Mo Diabate to get his second foul, his third foul, his fourth foul, and fifth foul. Sometimes he'd have five fouls and play 4 minutes. That he's done that before, and he can't play like that. He hasn't really been that guy this year. So, but the Alabama players, they've played two times against Auburn last year. They see the press on Auburn. They know how they play. They're in the same conference. So when they know what Chad Baker Mazara is going to do, they know how Johni is going to play. Just like Auburn knows exactly Mark Sears drive to the basket. He's going to try to get a foul. And he's going to, do all the stuff he does in the lane. These teams know each other so well. And Nate's making a point that if Mo gets caught up in doing those kind of things, or anyone else, Cliff Amori, Sherrill in his first game, I mean, it's going to be losing basketball. Um,
Someone default name in the chat mentioned this, and I just looked it up because the size differential, maybe not height, but Mo Diabate probably has like 50 pounds on Chad. Chad is very, 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 very skinny, very
yes.
skinny. And I mean, he's more built than Chad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I
but
mean,
let's get off that.
but that's that's I mean, as a guy who has occasionally been an asshole on a basketball court or a baseball field or whatever, I used to try to get under people's skin, and I wasn't the most muscular, strong guy on the field. It's those of us that can get our ass kicked sometimes by the other guy that gets them out of their game by playing a certain way. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean Chad Baker Mazara can't stick it in your eye from three or drive
Oh
past
no,
you
not at
and
all.
and play winning basketball. And he needs to get back to doing that. And I brought it up on the show today, and we'll get to your comments, but I brought it up on the show today. Auburn needs to get back to that swagger. They didn't have it against Florida. They were not doing the things that they do usually that helps them play their best basketball, their A-plus game. And there is a little bit of a little swagger when they're playing at their top game, a lot more animation than some teams have. I think we've compared them to the great Miami Hurricanes of yesteryear that would dance after a first down, or teams like that. Michael Irvin with a playmaker with the Cowboys, he'd get a first down and drop the basketball, or drop the football. Everybody does some of that stuff now, but this Auburn team, they're animated. And I didn't see that against Florida, and they lost the basketball game. And it surprised me they didn't have that. And I think they need to express themselves, be themselves if they're going to be the national champions when it's all said and done, in my opinion. Let's get some of these comments over here. We appreciate all of you guys being with us. And if you're watching us on replay, as we get ready for the game on Saturday, thank you for being with us. We'll do a taped version, mailbag only, for your ride in on Monday morning. We'll be live after the game on Saturday from Coleman Coliseum. Little T and I will be there live afterwards in the taped version, setting the table for the next week. There will be more games after this showdown. We
I
will
think
do
that's being forgotten.
Oh, I know. It's like the end of the world game. Howie checked in, Wardam Eagle. Michael checks in. Happy Valentine's Day. About to pick up some steaks. Go get them, Michael. Jake's amped. Thank you, guys. Hunter says Happy Valentine's Day. Tomorrow is going to be a movie. Grab your popcorn. Throws the eagle in there. Let's start this right. F. Auburn, says Kenneth. I was talking to Forrester about that today. I was like, it's going to be, uh, I said a different word, but toxic is the word I'll use here on social media. It's already started
Oh,
here.
yes.
Landmine believer, I hate Auburn more than I love Alabama. AU Big Bob says no one uses the coaches poll. Dunaway, did I say anything about the coaches poll?
I don't know.
I did not. I did not. Taylor brought it up, AU Big Bob, but roll with it, whatever you want. Andrew, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how Auburn wins in the airplane hangar. I don't think you think they win either, and I'm just the opposite.
Yeah, because we know exactly what game you're playing.
No, I'm not playing a game. You're the one that has been saying all week you think Alabama wins the game.
Because I do. And so, along with the rest of the country. Like, truthfully, I do.
I don't think the rest of the country. I told you guys as I watched Joe from ESPN on ESPN Bets today, he takes Auburn plus 1.5. That's his best bet of the weekend. And I would agree with him. I would take Auburn 1.5, best bet of the weekend.
And yeah, you like to do this. That's the only person that I've seen, though. Everyone that I've seen publicly pick this game has said that they think that Alabama's going to win. And I think that Aaron just brought up a really interesting topic of discussion in the chat. Let me see. Okay, default name or Landmine Believer said, no, don't try and play the Auburn versus the world crap. It's been about 50-50. I'm not trying to play that. I've genuinely, the people that I've looked at, I'm not saying it's Auburn versus the world by any means, but the people that I've heard talking about it, besides, I think Lance today said that he's leaning Auburn. Everyone else that I've heard, again, publicly stating their opinion or pick says Alabama. So, I don't know, but this is...
you got Joe from ESPN Bets and Lance from Lance'sLike.com. Two betting people that are taking Auburn there. And I bet tomorrow on the college game day, I bet the bald-headed guy that used to coach at Virginia Tech, Seth, I bet he takes Auburn. I bet he takes Auburn tomorrow.
Okay.
Jay won't make a pick. He's calling the game. I don't think Jay Will likes Auburn for some reason, so I think he'll take Alabama.
No, the lead into halftime during the Auburn Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
Reese Davis starts off halftime saying, "What an impressive first half by Auburn on the road at Ole Miss. It's an electric environment, a hostile environment." And immediately, Jay Williams, the dysfunction of this team will catch up to them and it will end up biting them in the butt. And they were both like, whoa. And he brings up the plane incident that happened 3 months ago. And they after he finished talking, they were just like, well, good thing Bruce Pearl handles dysfunction pretty well or something. They kept moving, but I was like, yeah. So I agree with what you're saying. I don't know that he's the biggest Auburn fan.
Yeah, I would bet the best bet of the weekend may be him picking Alabama on game day
Probably.
tomorrow. Okay, Landmine Believer, way back at the start of this, gave his three keys to the game, and I want you to react to these. Alabama draws fouls and Auburn commits them. Alabama's the second best offensive rebounding team in the SEC. Auburn ranks 13th in the SEC play in giving up offensive rebounds and turnovers. Alabama is not good at turning the ball over. They average 13 a game. Auburn averages 9 a game. That's 4 extra possessions there. And Auburn's the most efficient team in the country at scoring. So if you give Auburn, 4 extra possessions, 8 points, 9 points, 10, 11, 12, maybe even 21 extra points. My math is bad there. 16, whatever that ended up being extra points, you're going to end up losing the basketball game. So turnovers are a key. But one thing that we're not talking about is how efficient Alabama's offense has gotten since we got into SEC play. I like where Alabama's offense has been. They won't shoot the ball as good, Taylor, as they did in Austin, because Auburn's defense is better than Texas's defense. But they have gotten better percentage wise since they got an SEC play at shooting the basketball. And I think the reason why, and correct me if you disagree with me, I think the reason why Alabama's field goal 3-point percentage has gone up from 34% to 38% in SEC play has been Chris Youngblood. He wasn't there before the conference, and he's come back now and he's getting healthier. And I think he's become one of the better shooting 3-point players that Alabama has. And he almost is what Miles Kelly has become, or at times Pettiford has become for Auburn. Just a guy that if things are starting to fall apart, he can hit a big bucket. And I think that's why Bama's numbers have gone up. I mean, Holloway has been shooting it well too, but to me, getting Youngblood healthy has helped Alabama a lot. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. And the difference, in my opinion, between Youngblood and Aiden Holloway is the fact that Aiden has been pretty consistent throughout the season. So you know what you're going to get from him most nights. And Youngblood has started to shine recently. Again, he was injured. It's not like he had a horrible start to the season. Like, he's coming off an injury. When he started playing again, it's going to take some time to adapt. And Aiden's been consistent, because I saw some people arguing for Aiden, and I don't disagree that Aiden is one of the X factors on this team. But I think Youngblood elevates this team to another level, because that's something that they didn't have when he was out. Aiden's been there all along, and he's been pretty consistent. So I agree. I think that adds this, that brings this team to another level, or it has the ability to bring this team to another level. And I cannot remember which game it was. I'm trying to rack my mind. You might know off the top of your head, but it seems like he's one of those guys, when they're in a little bit of a scoring drought or an offensive funk, they've been able to lean on him more, especially recently.
Mississippi State, the big win at Mississippi State, when it looked like
Okay.
it was about to fall apart, Youngblood hit some big shots there. So he's the kind of guy that can do that, and they're much better having that option now that he's back healthy than and Holloway shooting the ball so well. Andy says he's about to grill his steaks he picked up from New York Butcher Shop.
Oh,
Way to go, Andy.
you will not be
Do
disappointed.
you have you got Valentine's meal ready to cook or ready to go? You got anything on the grill? I get to pick something up on the way home for Maggie and I. We went out last night. We celebrated a day early, so I've got to remind me when we're done to call Maggie to see what I got to pick up for Valentine's Day when I get home.
Okay, I'll try.
Um,
I'll try to remember.
yeah, we'll skip through all the reaction to our
Yeah,
rants
yeah.
earlier.
A lot of
Blah, blah,
unhappy
blah.
Alabama
Yeah,
fans with me.
yeah, and Auburn fans with me. It works that way. It's that time of year.
It is that time of
Uh,
year.
Elena Ann, though, says agree Taylor Wardam. I'll throw that one in there for you.
Thanks.
Not everybody against you. Um, People talking steaks now. I like that. Uh, hmm, hmm. Boy, that was a lot
Wait,
of
there was a
comments.
good.
A
There was a
lot of
good.
comments. A lot of comments about Little T there.
I know.
Go ahead.
I think I pissed some people off.
No,
There was
Claremont Believer
a.
says this is my favorite Taylor moment since you joined TNR. Nate's got her rattled.
No, I'm just sharing my opinion.
That's right. We're here for opinions.
Yeah, free speech in my America.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a good comment that I was going to bring up earlier, and I got sidetracked. I think I'm close to it. Um, let's see. It was about it was from Aaron. If this tomorrow game becomes a foul heavy game, where do y'all lean?
Yeah.
And
Like
I think
Texas
that's an
A&M.
interesting topic of discussion.
Yeah. Like Texas A&M, Alabama, where it lasted 2 hours and 50 minutes and they called too many fouls. And I think they will let them play. But unless you start getting on the verge of a fist fight, and that's when they start calling a lot more fouls at that point. But until they until they look like they're about to have a brawl, then they're going to let them play usually. And who does that benefit? Well, first I would say Auburn statistically shoots the free throws better than Alabama does. Both teams are deep, but Alabama has more bigs, I believe, than Auburn does, depending on how Howard would play if he came in. But you go start matching them up. If Johni got it, there's not another Johni Broome. So if he got into foul trouble and has to sit for a big chunk of the first half, I don't think. How can I say this? Um, I don't think there's one player on the Alabama team, if he got into foul trouble early and he goes to set out, that they don't have another one that plays like him. Meanwhile, Auburn doesn't have another Johni Broome. They've won games without Johni. They could go to the Final Four, I guess, without Johni Broome. But Johni Broome is the zebra in a pasture full of horses. He is different than everyone else on the floor. So if Janai is the one that gets that second early foul, Auburn doesn't have anyone else that comes in. If Mark Sears picks up his second foul early, here comes Holloway, here comes Spylon,
You'll be
young.
missing out on a bunch of free throws though if Mark
Yeah,
Sears hits down.
he draws the fouls, but here comes somebody else. If Grant Nelson, okay, well here comes Jaron Stevens or Mo Diabate or whoever. They've got another guy coming. If Darian Reed plays, here comes Reed. If Omore gets it, well here comes Sherelle, and if Sherelle gets him, well then Grant moves down. He plays the five. There's just Mo Diabate plays the five. Alabama, it feels like their parts can handle one or two guys getting into foul trouble. You don't want anybody to, but you can move the pieces around. And you can do that a little bit with Auburn as well. Not saying that Auburn's not deep. I'm just saying Johni Broome is that different and that good that he's the one guy that you don't want to get that second foul, say in the first 14 minutes, and he's on the bench for 14 minutes of the first half, or if he gets a third early in the second half and he's on the bench for 8 or 9 minutes in the second half. That's the one person, Johni Broome, who I think if it turns into a foul fest, could end up impacting the game most, only because he's so good and potentially the national player of the year, and there's not another Johni Broome on the team. You could fire back if you wanted to and tell me about Chaney Johnson right now, and that is a great argument, but I just think Janai's different.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He's one of the best players in college basketball right now, and it's you're not going to have two of those on the same team. But I I would get more concerned. Dylan is more prone to get in foul trouble early in games, and I don't think that that's you know near the loss that Janai would be,
Right.
obviously.
He's my favorite
But
player, but if you lose Dylan, he has to sit early on. I don't think that's going to really hurt the game very much for Auburn. You put somebody else in and just play it different. When they're both out there together, they're a wall, they're a force, they're a block shocking block,
yeah,
they're shot blocking monsters. But
yeah,
if he sits down, it's different because he's not such an offensive presence as
right,
Janai
right.
is.
He has his sparks. He can be electric, but Janai's a lot more consistent, and he has a lot more versatility, I would say, in his game. There was something else that I wanted to touch on because I actually um did this calculation. And
While you look for it, I have another thing I want to throw out.
okay.
Auburn, Alabama never played 1 versus 2 in football ever, but it's happening in basketball. We play again on March the 8th coming up. Um, Jay Billis this week said the SEC, and we've talked about this all year, but he said this is the most powerful basketball league, top to bottom, that there has ever been. That there's ever been. And that's Billis, who played at Duke. He's an ACC guy for years and years. They talked about the ACC, the Big East, the Big Ten, the Big 12. But for Billis to say that's ever been, I thought that was big words this week. And of course, he'll be on the call and at game day tomorrow. I just thought that was a cool comment from earlier this week.
Okay, it was about Alabama shooting from deep at home versus away. And I thought I had it, but then I looked down for a second to pull this up and I lost it. But I calculated the numbers, the 3-point shooting percentage for both teams actually, and they're very similar in comparing home and road games, but I only did SEC play since those were the most recent. So Alabama is shooting, this is in conference play. At home, they're shooting 33.3% from three. On the road, they're shooting 40% from three. Auburn, again, in conference play, at home is shooting 33.6% from three, 40.1%. Or Alabama's 42% on the road. Auburn is 40% on the road.
Yeah. I mean, those are numbers that speak the truth, right?
Right.
That's pretty big numbers there. Michael says, did you guys see where Nate called out both Mark Sears and Grant Nelson for turnovers? When he was asked about all the turnovers, those were the two leaders from last year's Final Four team. He basically says Mark and Grant have to stop turning the basketball over. So all the turnover problems he put at the feet of the two veterans that led him to the Final Four last year, Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. Talk about speaking the truth. There he is, speaking the truth about Mark and Grant, his own guys there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, he doesn't shy away from saying what he thinks a lot of the time. And the college basketball fan base as a whole is well aware of the fact that Alabama has had a turnover problem at times. So
yeah, Christian says hopefully the refs will let them play. I don't want to see this game turn into a free throw fest for the
I
last
don't
5 minutes.
either. I
Forget
don't
the last
either.
5 minutes. That Texas A&M game was the last 15 minutes of the game, clock time.
Do you remember the preseason game? I cannot remember. It was Alabama in Memphis, I believe.
Yeah.
And the game lasted, what, 3 hours? And
Yeah.
it seemed like 100 plus free throws were shot. That was the entire game.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it kills the flow.
they ended up in that game not counting personal fouls, so you couldn't foul out. So it was an exhibition game, and that didn't help. Once the players realized they couldn't foul out, nobody was getting an easy shot. Aaron says, let's not forget our guy Chaney's coming out party. Chaney Johnson had his 20-point career high in the Vanderbilt game. In that game, going back to it, he and Johni scored 31 of Auburn's 46 points in the second half. So it was a coming out party, as Aaron said, there for Chaney Johnson. Do they keep it? Do they keep it rolling? Does Chaney continue to play a big factor? Does he sneak him? Does he sneak into? He wouldn't sneak into the starting lineup. You would keep Dylan and Johni in the starting lineup, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would change that unless there was, some sort of injury that they were dealing with that, we're unaware of, which I don't foresee happening. And I think it's important to have that production coming off the bench. And I think he's accepted his role and he's done a good job of it. His problem, along with Dylan's at time, and this was a big talking point when Johni was out, is the fact that both of them have been prone to getting into foul trouble early. And he was one of the players that was available to the media for Auburn yesterday. And that was one of the things he talked about was, I just need to continue to play my game the way that I know that I can without fouling. And
Yeah.
he did a good job when Johni was out of staying out of foul trouble. He and Dylan both did, but that is, one of the setbacks that he's had um over the span of the year in its entirety. But no, I don't think that he'll start. I think that he will come off the bench.
Yeah, I would also point out that Jaron Stevenson on the Alabama side had his coming out party too, his 22 points, which may have been a career high for him. He had
I believe it
19.
was.
Yeah, he had 19 against Clemson. They got Alabama to the Final Four last year. Jeff says, Taylor, I hope Dylan's not at the
Oh
line
my
with the
word.
game on the line. Love him, but wow. Coaching wise, if they're in a free throw, need to make a free throw situation at the end of the game, he won't be on the floor. You
Yeah.
can't risk that.
He has
You can't risk that.
struggled, and they've talked about it's honestly kind of sad because they've talked about how he worked so hard at it. He just looks a little bit unnatural shooting a free throw, and he hit I think two of the last four that he took in a game. I cannot remember. It was a recent game. It wasn't the Vandy game or the Florida game. I don't remember which game it was. That's irrelevant, but he hit two in a row once, I think, and I remember sitting on my couch. It was a road game, so I was sitting here and I was like, "Who is this?" But yeah, if the game's on the line, you don't want Dylan Cardwell shooting free throws, and that's
Yeah.
that's someone that you said you can, send in a big guy off the bench and just let him foul the crap out of Dylan because
That's right. Early in the game, set a tone. Michael says, Dunaway, you look extra lean in that hoodie, in that lighting. Thank you. I haven't worn this hoodie, this J. Crew hoodie, since I'm gonna say 2017. I got it in 2017. It's been hanging in my closet. It's one of my favorites. I am down. I'm down some weight. So a
oh my
little
gosh,
skinny.
what is
Yeah.
this turning into?
I'm just thank you, Michael, for noticing. Down 22 pounds since the SEC football championship. So
Congratulations, Dunaway. We're proud of
thank
you.
you. But I mean, you were sick all week long. I mean, when you walked in this morning, I was like, let's get that girl a burrito today. Cause you could tell you'd like lost I mean, you can't lose a pound. You're always in great shape. But I was like, oh, it's got a little, what's that cheekbone, little sunken in
I don't
cheeks there.
know. I don't know. This is
Yeah.
taking a turn for the to a
No, I
very
was just like,
strange place.
we got to get the nutrients back in. I would imagine you couldn't eat it all week long.
No, I
I was
literally
worried
laid in
about you.
bed for. Oh, I'm aware, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. I was texting your mom all the time. I was like,
Well,
what's the word? What's the word?
mm.
One day I was like, should I take her flowers, candy, and whiskey?
No, no, no. You
Yeah.
should. No,
She,
like
she,
you
she,
just shouldn't.
she said maybe the whiskey. I don't know. Landmine believer. The only concern I have is Alabama doesn't shoot the ball well in
Oh,
Coleman.
that was
30%
it.
from three and home. That was the one you were looking for. I
Yeah.
stumbled across it. I thought it sounded like what you were talking about.
Yes,
Just
that's
don't
what I
let
was
Pat
talking about.
Adams ref the game. Do we know the refereeing crew yet?
I was actually looking for that, and I do not believe so. Don't hold me to that because I haven't. It was not sent out by either Auburn or Alabama, um, in their initial little, like, game notes and all that they send out, so I do not know, but I will look and see.
Oats is nervous, says Luca. I don't know why Oats would be nervous, Luca. I would imagine BP's not nervous either. Both of these
Yeah, no
teams
one's
are, yeah.
feeling very confident heading into this game.
Both teams could lose every single game the rest of the year and still be in the NCAA tournament. Loser of the game tomorrow still likely going to be a one seed when it's all said and done. Maybe if you
But
lose the other return game, no. But I mean, by the way, CBS 11:30 tomorrow. The selection committee will put out their top 16 teams right now, and I know it'll be Auburn one, and there's a chance Alabama will be the number 2 overall seed and the second number 1 seed. So we'll see tomorrow. Alabama's 6 in the net, so they may be further down the line, but tune in at 11:30 and see where they are. Winner gets their coach's voice back. What does that mean?
I have no clue.
Both guys hoarse right now.
I don't know.
Auburn is more versatile than Alabama. Jim is drinking that Kool-Aid. Did you agree with what I was saying earlier about Johni Broome? Did you understand it? Because Christian
Yeah.
obviously said I wasn't making sense.
No, no, I think that what you were saying was he's harder to replace. Like he's kind of that irreplaceable guy on Auburn's team. There's not anyone that you're going to come in and there be absolutely no drop off from Johni to X, Y, or Z. I think that y'all are kind of talking about two different things. I think you're talking about Johni as a player, and he's talking about Auburn as a team because Auburn can win, in a number of different ways. And I do think that that benefits Auburn, that plays into Auburn's hand because, if they slow the game down, Alabama wants to play at a fast pace the whole game. And it's something that y'all have talked about on the next round a number of times as well. Auburn can win in a number of ways, and that's what makes them a dangerous team.
Sam says, "Oh, the winner of this is guaranteed what minimum at-large bid?" Um, I'd say the winner of this game. There's no way. How many games will be left, Taylor?
6.
6.
Yes.
There would be no way for the winner of this game to drop below a 3 if they lost every single game the rest of the season. The winner of this game would not drop below a 3 seed if they lost every single game the rest of this year. How about that? That's my belief.
Yeah, I don't know. Bracketology is confusing, and I'll just agree with you.
Yeah. And that's if they lost every single game the rest of the way, which isn't going to happen. Alabama could. Their schedule's that tough the
Yeah,
rest of the way.
all 7 opponents or 6 opponents left because they play Auburn twice is currently in the latest AP poll is ranked in the top 25. I think the lowest ranked team is 22,
Yeah.
21 maybe.
Robert says if Florida can win in Auburn, so can Alabama. Okay, I'm going to say this, Robert, right here. Back in January when we started the basketball show here, and you guys wanted to talk about the Alabama-Auburn game here on February 15th, I said I'm not going to wish the basketball season away and talk about Alabama and Auburn every week. I'm not going to wish tomorrow away and the rest of the basketball season by talking about the return game in Auburn yet.
Yeah.
We'll wait till March 8th for that one. But Alabama's a good road team, and so is Auburn. Both these teams are 6-0 on the road, which is why I think Auburn can win tomorrow in Tuscaloosa. And I call me crazy, I think Alabama can win in Auburn. It's unlikely that Auburn will win this one and Alabama will win the other one. But is there a chance Alabama could win tomorrow and also in Auburn? Yes. Is there a chance Auburn could win tomorrow and also in Auburn? Yes, because both of these teams are so good on the road this year. It's only the 6th time in college basketball history that 1 and 2 from the same state have met each other. So,
Yeah, we
that
got to
covers
soak
it.
this up.
Yeah, that covers a lot of North Carolina, Duke, Memphis, and Tennessee was one of them. You don't get it a lot. So, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever get this again. Do you ever think about things like that? I know you hate when I get off script
Yeah.
and start talking about weight or emotions or
Yeah.
friendship. But right here, I'm just going to ask you, do you ever think about moments like this? Like, we're caught up in 1 versus 2 this weekend, but God, we may never actually ever see this again.
I think about this is so cheesy, and I hate that I'm saying this, but there's some random quote. I don't know who was the first to say it, but that it talks about like the good old days. And it's like you look back at the good old days. And I feel like we're living in that right now in terms of this. In terms of this. So
Yeah.
no, I don't ever think about like, man, it sucks that I'm never gonna feel like this again. Like I'm just trying to enjoy the moment.
Yeah. Christian says, should the SEC tournament affect seeding in the big dance? I don't
It
think so. What do you
doesn't.
think?
It
What
doesn't.
do you think it should? And you don't think it does either, right?
No, I don't think it does. And it doesn't. I don't it's not that I don't think it does it doesn't. Like it just simply doesn't.
Yeah.
And we've seen that over the past few years. Do I think it should? Yes, because something that's talked about all the time is, you want to get hot at the right time. You want to peak at the right time. And if a team is playing, an elite level of basketball that they may not have been playing mid-season, like I think that the season as a whole should be taken into consideration. But where we are right now, I don't think that the tournament is looked at all.
Well, Alabama's covered 10 of the last 13 games they played. And they're the favorite tomorrow. So we'll see if they are covered. It says in the description of what we're doing here, preview and prediction on number 1 Auburn versus number 2 Alabama. I'm not sure I want to give a prediction. Is that something you're willing to do? You want
Yeah,
to
I
do? You
mean,
want to
I
give a prediction?
will. I feel like I already have kind of, but
Okay. What's your prediction?
I mean, I think that Alabama wins the game. I think I don't. I
How
think
does
that
that
it'll be
play? How
close.
does that play out? Tell me how you think Alabama wins the game.
I think that it's a competitive game all game. I think I don't think that anyone's by any means, changing the channel or getting bored in terms of a blowout happening. I don't think that that will happen either way just because these are two extremely talented teams. I think it'll be a close game, and in the end I think Alabama wins. I mean, they're at home. Alabama is playing extremely, extremely good basketball right now. Auburn has looked better at other times in the season, earlier this season. They looked like they were playing unbeatable basketball. They've taken a little dip, and who's to say that they can't get back to that? That's not what I'm saying, but I think that Alabama is playing closer to their ceiling right now than they were earlier in the season. And Auburn hasn't looked quite like themselves over the past few games. Johni did say yesterday on he was on with Feinbaum, and he did say that his ankle right now, or aka yesterday when he was speaking, is feeling the best that it has since before he injured it. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be impossible to go into this game with a lack of energy, like we were talking about earlier. Auburn seemed like it had lost a little bit of its swagger during the Florida game, and that's not going to be physically possible for any of these players to lack energy or lack motion during this game. I think it'll be close. I'm looking for a number. I think it was the last 6 of the last 8 games maybe were decided. 6 of the last 9 games in the series have been decided by 8 points or less. So if that trend continues, it'll be relatively close. I don't have
Yeah.
I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to land mine out. I'm not going to come on here and say that I think that Auburn's going to win the game. I don't. I don't think that. I don't believe that. I think that they can. Would I be surprised if they did? Not necessarily. But I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think that they have to play a lot better than they've been playing recently in order for that to be the outcome.
Default name, I got to witness 8 inches of snow in Fairhope, Alabama this year, and a 1 versus 2 Auburn versus Alabama basketball game in the same year. What a life. It has been a magical year for you. Roe Clifton, Fear the Stash, Grant Nelson. I do think it's going to be a very important game for him. Alabama can win this game without making 17 threes. They can also get to the rim and score. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
This team, until the Texas game, was one of the best in the country because of what they were doing at the rim. They have not really shot the threes that well this year by comparison to what they did at the end of last year. It changed in the Texas game. Obviously, if you're an Alabama fan, you'd love them to continue to hit those threes. It does make their game a little bit more
It makes them unbeatable.
complete.
If they're shooting at that caliber, good luck beating them.
I agree. I think if they shoot like they did in Austin, it's
Which
they're unbeatable. But the difference is Texas doesn't play perimeter defense. That's why Texas is where they're at. Meanwhile, Auburn is one of the best perimeter defensive teams in the country. And that's the key to the game to me. Alabama averages 10 made threes a game. Auburn averages giving up only 6 made threes. That sounds like not a big difference, but it's 12 points, and 12 points can be the difference in the game. That's where it happens to me. 100%. It all happens there on the 3-point line, how Auburn defends that, keeping Hardaway, keeping Youngblood, keeping Feinline, keeping Sears from just Grant Nelson from having a shooting day out there. Now we need Dunaway to pick Auburn to cancel out Taylor picking Alabama. It's only fair.
But I
I
don't have
said,
I don't have any power is the thing. Like if we
uh,
pick the other team to win, that's not it's different for Dunaway because he has a history, in my opinion, of
I pick a
picking
lot more
Auburn.
right.
No,
I pick
you
a
pick
lot.
Auburn. You pick Auburn to win games that they're not realistically going to win, I think. Or actually, no. No, I take that back. You pick
eh,
Auburn in spite. In spite. I'm picking like I genuinely think, and then you can say I genuinely think, and a lot of times when you genuinely think it is when shit hits the fan.
I really believed Auburn was going to win the national championship in basketball last year when we left Nashville. So that's why I picked Auburn. That's what everybody goes back to so many times. Oh, you land behind Auburn. They lost to
No,
Yale.
no. I mean that wasn't the start of this though. That wasn't the start of Jimmy Landmine. That may have been the peak of it in the way that my eyes look at it, but that was far from the start of it.
Yeah. Mike says, great show, guys. I have to say that Dunaway is pretty and Taylor is awesome. I mean, Taylor is pretty and Dunaway is awesome.
Thank you,
Interchangeable, Mike.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you. In Mo D, we trust, says Zach. He's ready to go. Glad that little T's over her sickness there.
Yes, I'm back.
Alabama's one of the best 3-point shooting defenses in the country. Absolutely. That's actually where they're better at defense is on the perimeter as well. But Auburn's really, really good at guarding the three, and Alabama really likes to shoot them. Pace of play is a key number. Alabama number 2 in Ken Palm adjusted tempo. Auburn is 131st in adjusted tempo. So style of play, who starts to dictate that a little bit? Ole Miss came in to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, and Alabama never got into a rhythm, never played their pace. Can Auburn do that? That'll be one of the keys. All right. That's going to do it for the show here. Thank you guys for being with us so much. And again, we'll be live immediately after the game, right there courtside. Taylor and I will grab our microphones. It may be the first time we talk to each other all day long. She on game day, she is intense. On Auburn, Alabama game days, it is a different level. So there is a good. We're not riding together. Just in case, it goes bad for Auburn. We're going to be in different cars so she doesn't kill me on the way home. So, I
Or
mean,
because you're going to Tuscaloosa 6 hours earlier than I am, but
I'm doing that
also
for
so we
you.
don't.
I'm doing that for you. I'm taking one for the team. I'm the game day guy tomorrow. I'm
Take
going
one for
there.
the
So,
team. Thank you,
yeah,
Dunaway. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. For the 12, for the 12. I'll get up. I'll get up at 6 and go down there
You
for
get
the
up at like
team.
3 o'clock every day to go do show notes at the studio. That is sleeping in for you.
Oh, all right, all right. Do you have anything else to add before we do this? Do this game
I
tomorrow?
I hope that everyone enjoys it so much. Like I hope that everyone has a great time watching the game. And I'm not one for, it doesn't matter who wins, let's just have fun. Like no, I'm expecting Alabama to win. I'm not going to be as disappointed in Auburn losing as I would in other situations because I'm going into this
That
with realistic
that is
expectations. But
bullshit. That is bullshit. That's bullshit. I mean, you're disappointed when Auburn lost the football game this year.
I mean, I didn't say I was going to be happy,
Yeah,
but
you're making it sound like it's not going to impact your Saturday if they lose.
no, I'm saying I'm going into this with realistic expectations. I'm not going in saying Auburn should win this game. I'm expecting Auburn to win this game, and then they look awful and my heart gets ripped out. I'm just saying I'm going into this game. I'm expecting Alabama to win it. If I will be surprised, pleasantly surprised if Auburn wins, but it's not like I'm gonna cry on the way home. All I was trying to say is that I hope that everyone enjoys the game. I know everyone has their team that they're rooting for, but I think it's going to be an entertaining game. It's emotional for a lot of different reasons, and it should be entertaining.
Yeah, as I said 2 weeks ago and again last week, I just hope everyone keeps their composure. I don't
I
want
don't know why you quit hoping for that. It's not going to happen.
not the fans. I hope the players keep their composure. I don't want the whole country watching and it turns into something nasty.
You're
And I'm
gonna
worried.
get secondhand embarrassment.
I'm just worried about it turning into, I watched a clip on my TikTok while I was waiting to do the show of the 76ers and the Pistons with Charles Barkley and Bill Laimbeer getting into a fight back in 1990. And I was like, damn, that was fierce. It was a fierce game. They showed the highlights, and near the end, Barkley and Laimbeer are throwing punches. Their blood and jerseys are being ripped, and fans are involved. And I was like, God, I hope that's not tomorrow. I hope that's
I
not
don't think there's
tomorrow.
gonna be a fist fight.
I'm worried about it.
There's not. I will be very surprised if a fist fight breaks out on the court. It would be
Okay.
great video though for social media.
No, I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen.
I'm not wishing that it happens either, and I don't think it'll go that far. But for you to act like this is just going to be a friendly game of basketball is a little bit naive.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be a friendly game, but I don't want it to escalate to bad boy Pistons throwing punches.
I don't think a
Uh,
punch will be thrown.
I hope so. I hope so. All right, little T, enjoy your Valentine's Day. I will see you, even though we won't talk, I will see you in
Oh my
Tuscaloosa
gosh,
tomorrow. Tomorrow. Y'all have a
you're
great night.
unreal. Bye,
See you,
guys.
everybody. So long.